Imagine you're sitting in one of your college classes. Your phone rings and it surprises you because you thought you silenced it. You rush out of the door of the class and answer the ring, hearing information that one of your parents has just died. You're in shock and completely grief-stricken. You're instructed to meet with the funeral home, where you learn that you're responsible for the decisions of disposition, meaning cremation or burial, as well as being responsible for the payment for your parents' arrangements. This increases your stress because not only are you trying to pass college, you just lost one of your parents, but you're also broke. How many of you in the audience today have lost a pet or a family member, maybe even, grandparent? All of us will experience this at some time in our life. We all have parents or siblings, cousins or friends. Some of us have already been through this and know what it feels like. Washington state law requires that when someone passes away, all legal next of kin are responsible for disposition of human remains. There's been a pecking order established where the first person to decide would be a surviving spouse. If there's no surviving spouse, then it would go to adult children. If there's no adult children, it goes to parents. If there's no surviving parents, it goes to siblings, and then so on and so on. No matter how close you are with your friends, the funeral home has to obey this law, even if you've been estranged from your family for years and years. Your family will be contacted to make your funeral arrangements, and they will be the ones making those decisions for you. Recently, a law was passed in Washington state that made gay marriage legal. Before this law, I, as a funeral director, had to tell people they were not legally allowed to make cremation arrangements or burial arrangements, or even have the information about the arrangements for their life partner of, say, 35 years. Instead, it was their parents who had been estranged from them and had disowned them for being gay that were now going to come into the picture and make those arrangements for them. Pre-arrangements, meaning making your plans and paying for your plans in advance, prevent this kind of situation and this kind of stress from occurring. Everybody probably has some preference about what they want after they die. It could be that they don't like the thought of being buried underground. It could be that they have a fear of being burned and therefore are completely against cremation. Some people might even want to donate their body to science. And even if you're going to choose that, you still need to prearrange it. There's a time limit in donating your body to science. If you're not received by that entity or that agency within 24 hours after your death, then you're no longer a candidate. So that's not something that you can fall back on and plan to have done. I have met all kinds of people in my career. There are those also who, of course, don't want to think about it and just don't care. How many of us have heard, "Oh, I don't care what happens to me, just throw me in the river." "Oh, I don't care what happens to me, just put me in a hefty bag and leave me at the top of a mountain." Well, maybe they don't care about what happens to them after death, but they probably do care about their friends and their family who cannot carry out that wish for them because it is illegal and they will go to prison. So there are reasons to prearrange. Costs are continuing to go up. Costs of fuel, costs to make caskets, costs of everything are continuing to go up. But one benefit of pre-planning is you lock in the prices at today's cost. I have met with families who have paid in advance and saved hundreds of dollars. Some who even have prearranged and paid in advance for cremation or burial and have saved thousands of dollars. So if you do want to prearrange, which I would encourage, you just contact a funeral director and discuss your wishes with them. They will go over a lot of information with you that they will then keep in a file, which makes it easier for your family when the date occurs that you pass. When their whole world, your family's whole world has just fallen apart because you've died. They don't have to wonder what college you went to, where you were born, or your mother's maiden name, because all of that is taken care of when you prearrange. They'll also discuss with you any veterans paperwork, veterans benefits that you or your loved ones may be eligible for. And they're going to go over all that statistical information, such as your parents' names, where you went to school, where you were born, all of those things. So when your children or siblings or parents are sitting there with that funeral director wondering how they're going to pay for it, they don't have to ask themselves all those questions. When you prearrange, the money that you pay can be broken down into affordable monthly payments. You can stretch it out for even 5 to 10 years. So you may be making a $35 payment every month for 10 years. That's very affordable. And your money will be sent to either a trust account or an insurance policy instead of going directly to the funeral home. And this protects you as the consumer. So if the funeral home were to go out of business, your money is still safe and can be used at another funeral home when it's needed. I have met with a lot of families in my experience and in my career, and 100% of families whose loved ones have had prearrangements are thankful and grateful that they have prearrangements. They don't ever say, oh, I wish they hadn't done that. Every single family wants to know that things are taken care of, and once they know that things are set up, they don't question that. They just get to grieve. So what about those people who don't have family, or they do, but nobody wants to step up and come forward and pay for their funeral home arrangements? This is the part that the funeral director will never tell you. Those people are considered abandoned, and it's often with indigent people who are homeless or have been transients. It also happens when family members are estranged. They don't want to step up and they don't want to pay for some arrangements for someone that they're angry at. So I can tell you, nothing happens. You go to the funeral home and you will be there for at least 90 days in refrigeration. And then at that point, the funeral home can petition the courts to finally dispose of you. But that is only after 90 days. So you could be there anywhere from 3 to 6 months waiting for burial or cremation. The other problem is the funeral home then has to legitimately decide what your wishes would be. Would you want to be cremated? Would you want to be buried? This is something that a funeral home has, if they don't know you, they have no idea what you want, and your wishes won't be carried out. Most of the time, they will go with cremation because it is more cost effective and it does not involve the cost of placement in a cemetery. But after cremation, your urn will then be placed in an unmarked community crypt, and that's where you will be laid to rest. And the only record of you is going to be a name in a file cabinet in the cemetery office. So the easiest way to prevent this, and also to prevent your family going through undue grief upon your demise, is to start planning ahead for your death. We live in a planning society. We plan babies, we plan graduations, we plan weddings, vacations, we plan for retirement. So it only makes sense to plan for death as well. Because remember, none of us get out alive.